Hi, welcome to episode 1 of the Vartek podcast. I'm Misty Arthur, Director of Technology Integration here at Vartek, and we're excited to share a series of lessons learned from our integration team, or our I team for short, through the spring and the summer of 2020 as we dealt with emergent remote learning. Today, our host Lee Jacobs is speaking with Angel DeGrasse, Academic Technology Coordinator at All Saints Academy in Florida, about her experience during this at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Let's dive in and take a bite out of knowledge.
For joining me. Tell us a little bit about where you are, where you work for Vartek, and what you do there.
Okay, so I am currently an Academic Technology Coordinator at All Saints Academy in Winter Haven, Florida. And so I've been here a little over a year, and it's been a great experience so far.
How far are you from the beach in Winter Haven? That's close to Tampa, St. Pete, right?
Correct. I'm actually directly between Orlando and Tampa. And so if I'm going to the West Coast beaches, I'm about an hour and 10 minutes. And if I'm going to the East Coast beaches, I'm about an hour and 50 minutes, depending on which beach I'm going to. But yeah, just over an hour to the West Coast beaches, which are my favorite anyway. So
that is not bad. You know, I'm probably half a mile from a creek, and there's a small pond out back. That's about as good as it gets here. But you know, hopefully you're not spending too much time at the beach, because I know this has been kind of a wild time. In what ways did you feel prepared going into you know, the sudden announcement of closings? What were some of the things you were prepared to do?
I will say we had already here at All Saints been having weekly tech training sessions for our teachers. And so I felt like we already had, at least our teachers were comfortable with that technology. They've been using it for quite some time. Our students are one-to-one from fourth grade up. And so it's been something that we've already embraced here as part of our culture. However, that being said, just embracing technology and then taking it to a very different level of using technology for a distance learning scenario, it's not the same thing. And so what we considered it, what we kind of called it was, and I heard this from another group, so I'm just stealing this, but it was so appropriate, is that we went into a pandemic pedagogy. And so, you know, we were changing the way we were teaching. Our best practice was no longer best practice because we were no longer able to be just in the classroom, you know, what your college, you know, prepares you to do as a regular teacher. And so this was a new scenario for not only our teachers, but also for our students and for our, you know, our leadership here on campus. And even for me as a technology coordinator, I can't say that I've ever had to support this type of scenario. And so, you know, having a little bit of familiarity and already embracing technology was definitely a blessing in disguise as we moved into this pandemic. But I will say that our teachers did an amazing, amazing job with a fast turnaround, and our leadership did too, because basically we found out on a Friday that there was a possibility of us not coming to school the following week. So I did training with our upper school and middle school on Friday. I did training with our lower school on the following Monday. And on Tuesday, every single teacher on campus was full on distance learning with every class, every student. And I'd say that's a huge testament to what All Saints, that wasn't me, that, you know, that was our teachers understanding the importance of keeping things as normal as possible for our students and doing the excessive amount of work to be ready and prepared to be able to move forward on that Tuesday with distance learning. And so what I did during those training sessions, I simply introduced them to what I felt were the key components for them to be able to begin distance learning. And that was, you know, Google Classroom as a platform for managing our content, Loom as a platform for recording virtual lessons. So this is what they were able to use to record a lesson, and so their students could watch it at their convenience. And so, you know, I might record a lesson on multiplying fractions, and record myself teaching that lesson. And then I was able to post it on Google Classroom, because that's our platform for our content, for our students to see it. And then our teachers also met with Google Meet. I also introduced them to Google Meet so that they would have a platform to meet live with their students. That face-to-face interaction is so essential for keeping our students connected, for keeping our teachers connected and our families. And that, we felt like that was super important with all that was going on with the pandemic. We needed to maintain that. So every teacher met with every class every day.
What are some of the, I think you lay out a good plan. What are some of the things you learned kind of once things started going? What might you have done differently?
Well, we learned a lot.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot. And if we had it to do all over again, hindsight's 2020. We didn't know what we didn't know. And so I would say the biggest thing that if we could go back and do it over again, we probably would have started small. I think we were a little bit ambitious with jumping off and going full force and meeting with every class, every period, every day, trying to teach a full-on lesson. And so it was too much. And after that first week, our leadership did an amazing job of seeking feedback, constantly asking for feedback. And some of the consistent feedback from parents, from students, and from teachers was, this is too much. We can't keep up, because they literally were meeting with every single class every single day, and it was taking twice as much time as normal. And so starting small, knowing that we could have maybe met, with half the classes one day, half the classes another day, or, modifying assignments from the get-go and understanding, hey, every student doesn't have access to a computer at the time we need them to. And in fact, some families are sharing one computer for 3 students, or maybe they don't have, Wi-Fi access until mom or dad get home. And so just being aware of that and maybe easing into it a little bit more slowly than we did, I think was one of the things that we learned. Another big thing that we learned is that just like in your classroom, you have policies, you have procedures. Most teachers can tell you, especially elementary, at the beginning of the year, they spend a lot of time those first couple of weeks developing their policies and procedures. This is how you turn in a paper. This is how you line up at the door. This is how you, raise your hand if you need to get out of your seat. Like, these are the things that you do. We didn't have that developed for an online digital classroom management situation. There was not any time spent, developing those procedures and those policies. And so I think if we could have set those expectations from a high level and pushed them down, that would have helped tremendously our teachers and our students, just to know that everything was consistent and everything was, there were clear expectations for what was expected for every single classroom, by every single teacher, and by every single student, knowing that there would be, a little bit of leeway on how closely you could follow those, but at least setting an expectation and standard. And I think we just didn't do that early enough.
Yeah, I think that's, some of those are things that you just, I think are tough to anticipate. Just like anything when you're dealing with, I have a couple children myself, when you're dealing with the behavior of children, especially in large groups, right? You can only learn it through trial and error. So having a good plan going in is one thing, but you're just gonna learn, oh, okay, what are those procedures? How do we keep things orderly when you've got, little brother is running through the background and there's a pet and people are in their pajamas and they're under a blanket, and these are things you don't think of, and I think as a parent witnessing some of these things for my daughter's school, I could tell that, not only were parents looking for ways to support teachers and support that environment, but the teachers were trying to spend some of their effort making sure they were supporting the students and checking in. For a lot of kids, the school day is, really part of their stability and their routine. And I think as time went on, it became clear that people were having kind of a really varied experience. So it might not look the same way to parents as it did to students, as it to teachers. So what do you think the experience of this kind of distance learning model was for each of those different stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, the administrators trying to make the decisions, the students?
I think it varies, and it's a little bit different for each of those stakeholder groups. So I would say for students, there was a broad range of experiences, from students who actually thrived and did better in the digital online format and found that that was really their learning style. It fit their personality, it fit who they are very, very well. But then we had students on the other extreme who were really struggling, who need that social interaction a little bit more, and they just weren't getting it. And there's only so much you can do digitally to give that to them. And so it was a really difficult time for us to try to figure out, how can we meet their needs? How can we still meet the needs of all of our students? And so our students, like I said, I think some thrived, some barely survived. And so as a school, it was our job to really try to figure out how to bridge that and make sure everybody was feeling like they had the support and resources necessary to do as well as they possibly could. As parents, I will say our parents did an amazing job here on campus of being super supportive of what our teachers were doing, super supportive of their students. You know, they really tried hard to make sure they were doing everything they could. We created a parent website for tutorials for helping them navigate the digital world, because for many of them, they'd never been in a Google Classroom. They had never, seen some of these digital assignments. And so to help them understand, okay, this is where you can help your student find their work online. This is how you can help your student, see, what the announcements are for the day. This is, helping support parents. They were very, very appreciative of that. But we also tried to be very empathetic and respect the fact that for many of them, this wasn't just about their students' worlds being turned upside down. Their own family lives were also affected very heavily, between, losing jobs, losing loved ones. We had a family that, one of the family members couldn't live in the house anymore because of the risk factor. And, that had a negative effect on that family. And understanding that they're trying to balance, if they were working at home, trying to also help their student, do their work and work at home, and helping their student learn. And so it was definitely a challenge for many of our parents. But like I said before, one of the things our leadership did an amazing job with was requesting feedback. How can we support you? What do you need from us? What can we do differently to make sure that you are successful? And we did that with our students. We did that with our parents. We did that with our teachers. And so the parents were just very appreciative that we were willing to support them in any way that we could. And then our teachers, to me, and maybe it's because I'm a former teacher, but in my eyes, the teachers were the real heroes here. I mean, the amount of hours that some of these teachers worked in order to prepare lessons, to teach the lessons, to post the lessons, to respond to students, to make sure everybody was getting feedback. Like, they were working double the hours they were ever working when it was just a traditional on-campus learning. And so, but you wouldn't know that if you weren't on the backside of it. When it came to seeing them in front of their students, they were calm, they were courageous, they were, put on a brave face and had confidence in what they were doing, because they knew the students needed that. And they were there for their students. They didn't skip a beat. They delivered every lesson that they would have delivered here on campus. And, some of them were dealing with having to teach their own kids at home as well. And they just balanced it, and they made it happen. And we literally heard zero complaints from teachers. I mean, they knew this is what their students needed, and they were willing to do whatever it took to help them be successful. And so, like I said, in my eyes, they were truly the heroes. In distance learning,
Yeah, they certainly did shoulder a lot of the work, and they just have that ability, like any great leader or performer, no matter how stressful things were behind the scenes, when they step out in front of those kids, they're able to make that switch because, as you said, that's what the kids really need from a teacher all the time, and especially in times where they're not able to have as much human contact. So really being a teacher who's present and puts on the right face, the right emotional response for those kids from a distance the best way they can. That's been amazing to see.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think your key, like you just said, is just being present. That's what our students crave, that our children crave that. And so this was an opportunity for them to just do that, to show up and be there and be present. And it was amazing to watch and be part of.
So from the leadership of the school, from their perspective, kind of having to make these decisions, what are the different elements that tech leadership was facing and experiencing during this pivot?
Yeah, I think that for us as tech leaders in our schools, this was something new to all of us. And so I think that we relied a lot on each other. Vartek has an amazing technology integration team, and we really pulled together to support each other, to gather ideas. Our management team, our leadership team as well, we started meeting almost daily to say, okay, what is my school doing that's working? What is your school doing that's working? And gathering these ideas from these different resources to say, okay, this is something we can do to help support our teachers here. And maybe, I didn't think of that idea that this school is doing. And so to be able to bring that back to my teachers was wonderful. So it was a time for us to really build our community. And we really learned to depend on each other for that. And just to be there for each other too, that social connection that we were talking about our students needing. I think as adults, we needed that too. We weren't getting that like we normally would, coming to work and seeing everybody and, at the water cooler and having coffee together. And so it was essential for us to come together as a community of learners and leaders. And so our technology integration team at Vartek did an amazing job, shared resources, shared ideas. We collaborated on a lot of different things that could support our schools. And there were also my professional learning network, or my personal learning network on Twitter, people from across the globe who said, hey, this is what I'm doing as a technology coach, or this is what I'm doing as a tech leader, and being able to pull those ideas in as well. And then even like in Ohio, I forget what it's called, but I think it's like FASA or something.
They provide a lot of resources and webinars that I attended as well.
Yeah, they had weekly webinars, weekly sessions for technology leaders specifically to get together and collaborate on, what we are doing well and where we're going and what we need to do to be able to get to where we need to be. And it was amazing. I learned so much in those sessions. So like I said, I think a big part of this for me as a tech leader was just growing that community, understanding that I don't have all the answers. I've not been here before, and neither have my peers. So let's work together to come up with a solution that works for each of our schools. And so that was key. I think that was the biggest takeaway from this, was just growing that network of people who are in a similar position and really supporting each other and feeding off each other to be able to get what we needed to support our schools.
It really has been that kind of experience. Obviously, we're all hesitant to look for those silver linings in experiences that for some people are, really tragic and tough, and it's tough on all of us. But one of the things that I think we all have gotten to this point, the thing that's helped us professionally to survive to this point is all those connections. So I went in, kind of knowing some things about distance learning just from my role here, but the amount of resources that have come into my feed just through, Twitter. So I'm following education leaders in New Zealand, Hong Kong, the UK, right? And all in addition to the number that obviously in the US that I've had contact with, and some of the educators and education leaders I know personally through work. And it's been truly amazing to see this community of teachers and education leaders come together.
Yeah, and how awesome that everybody was willing to share. Like
Yes.
everybody, said, I want to share this with you if it will help you. I want to share this with you. Here's this free resource. Here's this free subscription. Here's, everybody came together to just say, hey, we're in this together. We're better together. And just really, shared with one another to build those relationships and to build that community. And I hope it's something that stays long after distance, learning or long after this pandemic is past, that, and I think, Lee, that's what we have to focus on too, is just the positives. For example, I had a couple of teachers when we were reflecting on, what's a positive that has come from this distance learning experience. And they said, creating these videos, these instructional videos, this is something I can use with students who are struggling in my classroom. They can go back and watch these videos that I've already created, and they can use those, and they can pause them, and they can rewind them, and they can play them and use those as an additional resource. And so I love hearing teachers looking forward and saying, hey, yeah, this was a struggle. Yeah, it was hard, but let's look at the bright side. Let's look at the positives that have come from this. Mm-hmm. And so, and if I'm speaking a little bit guilty, not guilty, that's not the right word, a little bit selfishly maybe, is that this pandemic, in this distance learning experience, I think it's helped our schools to understand the importance of that technology component in the schools. And so before, where maybe PD on tech stuff was optional, I think I have a strong feeling going forward, it might not be quite so optional.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Because they understand that if we are ever in this situation again, we want to make sure we can be successful and we have the tools and resources we need. And so I think, like I said, a little bit selfishly, but I feel like it's brought a very positive light to the role of our technology leaders in schools, and and help them to understand that we're here for them, and we want to do what we can to make them, to help them succeed. And so that's been a positive for me, I feel like, just helping them to understand the importance and seeing the benefit.
Yeah, I think that's true, and there I think there's kind of that flip side to it. We've been able to see how we can better serve our curricular goals, the things we're trying to do and teach in the classroom, how we can make sure technology is enabling that, rather than the view I think a lot of people have of technology as it's a thing that sits in front of the student and occasionally it breaks and we call someone to come fix it, right? And so really this has given, I think, educators a chance to really see what we mean when we talk about integrating technology in education, so that it's serving the educational goals. And sometimes tests like this one is what it takes to reveal some of those things, just like it has, I think, revealed some of the ways that communities have been underserved and at risk, in places for being able to have wireless access and things like that. So hopefully, we really see a change in thinking all across the nation and across the world to come out of this with something that is better for students. But so we're ready for it. And also when we're working in the classrooms and when the times are, normal times, right? The technology that's there is, we're approaching it, we have it in the right context. People know how to use it, and we're making the most of it to teach the kids. So that's my hope.
I think a big part of this, Lee, has been helping create an understanding that yes, technology is a tool, but if you use it the right way and really support the learning goals and focus on the learning goals, it can truly be transformational. And I think that's what we, need to continue to believe and support. And but it is, technology can be transformative, and so I hope that we continue to support that and understand that it's more than just something you put in front of a child. It's more than something you just put in the corner for busy work. That used correctly, and if you're using it to meet the learning goals that you have in the class, and for your students, that it really can transform.
Yeah, I think so. I think people, we're fortunate to work with a lot of people and a lot of school leaders who really have that vision. But hopefully this broadens the group of people who start to really get that vision. For those educators who were lucky enough to be part of that larger community now that is growing and so willing to share the spreadsheet that they've created, the links that they've started to collect, right? The contacts they've made that might be worth speaking with, the webinars that people are putting on. I think we're all going to be ready for anything that comes next. And yes, COVID, this is a tough time, and there's going to be some uncertainty, but the things that we're learning right now and the communities we're building right now can long outlast that. So it's my great hope that that's one of the things that comes out of this for education.
I completely agree. It's been an amazing experience, and you hear people say fail forward, but I like to think almost like grow forward. Like, we have this opportunity to continue to grow, and to continue to go forward and just continue learning. And, I think that's what we need to do.
Yep. We'll see whatever comes next. We'll be there. And just like usual, I'll have you meet me online when I can't come to Florida, and I'll ask you a bunch of questions.
I love it. It's been a great experience, Lee. It's been wonderful talking with you about this.
All right.
It's an important thing that I feel like it's important for us to discuss it and to understand, what our schools are doing and what our leaders are doing. And, it's valuable information. So I'm thankful that you were willing to talk about it today.
Yeah. Thanks so much.